This second nature, putting belt to the paper. These lines gon' shake pavement like Lucas trade to the Lakers. A fine bitch taker, we riding waves in Jamaica. I put my chin to the sky and give thanks that I'm not a hater. Wood grain taking steer in my life. Robbers raised the kids, so you won't catch me with fear in the eye. Thank God, another celebration, put beer in the sky. Clean glasses every other night, cause I'm me and that's tight.
Kevin Garnett or Dirk Nowitzki? Who's better? Find out with me. I mean, to be completely honest, I know who's better. I have a fair assumption. Well, not assumption, but I really look back and watch these players, and I have a pretty clear idea on who's the better player. But I would like to see who is this? I think this is Synthetic Sports. Let's take a look. Synthetic Sports. Yep. So if you guys haven't watched Synthetic Sports, make sure you go watch them. But Kevin Garnett versus Dirk Nowitzki, who's the better player? Let's find out.
The 2000s was the peak era for power forwards in the NBA. Of course, you had Tim Duncan, the greatest power forward of all time. You had guys like Pau Gasol won a couple titles with the Lakers. Other dudes like Chris Webber and Rasheed Wallace as well.
We're going to lean back today. We're going to lean back.
During this era with the closest legacy have to be KG and Dirk.
Yeah, both have one title, both have one MVP, both have about the same amount of All-Star appearances as well. So let's go through both their careers and break down who we think was the better power forward.
All right, now, Synthetic, you got me. Don't get me copyrighted. Don't get me copyrighted.
Before we start talking about who was better, KG versus Dirk, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos. So we'll start off by recapping each of their careers real quick. Kevin Garnett drafted 5th overall by the Minnesota Timberwolves in the 1995 draft. He became the first player since 1975 to be drafted straight out of high school. Of course, like right after then, this was kind of like a thing in the NBA. Of course, Kobe, other players as well. And he was drafted to a Timberwolves team, just straight ass.
Yeah, I mean, 6 year of existence, didn't have a 30-win season. I mean, classic expansion team that doesn't hit the lottery and get Shaq in like their 3rd or 4th draft.
Dirk, on the other hand, he started with a franchise more established, but also not in a good place either. I mean, the Mavericks had success in the 80s. You had Mark Aguirre, Rolando Blackman, Sam Perkins, but by the time Dirk arrived, all those dudes were long gone. He was taken 9th overall in the 1998 draft by the Bucks, but they traded him to the Mavericks for Robert Traylor, one of the all-time worst draft day trades. We've already made a video on that.
Yeah.
And really the big difference KG throughout their careers is the Mavs did a much better job of surrounding Dirk with good players, where KG, on the other hand, he got some help later on, but never had much help in Minnesota.
I mean, Dirk.
Quick question, chat. Quick question. Do you guys want to see me rank the superstars in NBA history that just have not had the best offensive talent surrounding them? That doesn't sound too bad. Like KG, I wouldn't say LeBron. No, first stint Cleveland LeBron, terrible. Kobe in his peak years, like we can do a video like that. Make sure you guys comment and let me know.
When you're a big guy who, doesn't dribble the ball off the floor, not many better players to have as your point guard than Steve Nash. Like I said, KG got some help later on, but for the most part early in their careers, it was Dirk that had all the help. And what's so impressive about these two guys is how quickly they turned their teams around. Like KG, just his 2nd year, got Minnesota their first ever playoff appearance. Unfortunately, got swept by the Rockets in the first round, and then for the next 6 seasons, the Timberwolves would never get out of the first round.
Damn.
2004, finally their big breakout year. Top seed in the West. KG wins MVP. You got Sam Cassell and Latrell Sprewell giving him support. Got out of the first round, beat the Kings in that 7-game thriller in the second round before falling to the, Kobe, Shaq, Malone, Peyton, super team Lakers in the conference finals. And then after that, KG and the Wolves just never got back to the playoffs. I mean, he was still one of the best players in the league, but the supporting cast just slowly fell apart. I think around this time also, the Wolves had to give up like 3 first-round picks.
Right.
Yeah, because they illegally signed Joe Smith.
Right.
If you're going to legally sign like Kobe or something,
Right.
that's worth 3 firsts you had to void for Joe Smith.
Yeah, just a very poorly run franchise during this time. Back over to Dirk also led a very impressive turnaround. Hit a bit more help. Like we said, Steve Nash, Michael Finley. By just year 3, he led the Mavericks to 51 wins, got to the second round of the playoffs. In 2003, they make the conference finals, but fall the Spurs. And even after Nash returned to the Suns in 2004, they remained an elite team. In 2006, they make the NBA Finals, face off against the Heat. They were up 2-0 in the series, but they eventually fall in 6 games. In 2007, they were incredible as well. First seed in the West. Dirk wins MVP, but then you get upset by the We Believe Warriors in the first round. One of the biggest playoff upsets in NBA
I just
history.
watched the video. I just watched the video with numbers on the board when they had Baron Davis up there breaking down how they were beating the Dallas Mavericks. It was pretty cool to see. I'm not gonna lie.
Accept his MVP award after they've gotten eliminated by the Warriors, and he's got to act like, oh, yeah, like it's a great art. Like I think the quote, like he's walking and he's something like, you know, it's a great day.
Yeah.
You know, obviously disappointed. It's a terrible Dirk
Think about
impression,
that.
But like,
Think about
it's
that.
Like, yeah, great day.
All right,
won the
so let's
MVP.
say-
lost in the first round to a 42-win Warriors.
Let's put this in context. Well, I can't really put it in context because it's like you're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. You just win MVP, and you lose to the 8th seeded Golden State Warriors. So let's say the year Nikola Jokic wins MVP. No. Let's say let's say, as a matter of fact, let's say Steph wins MVP in 2017 and they lose to the Blazers in round 1. Yeah, I think that's somewhat of an equivalent.
I mean, credit for at least showing up.
Yeah. I wouldn't.
Yeah, they would have had to send me that through the mail. They would have to send me that through the mail.
I'd just be like, I sit on my
Bro
couch,
had
but
on
you
the- hold on,
fucking
go
mail it
back.
to me.
And for the next few seasons,
Bro
the
had
Mavs
on this
were-
big ass
Day.
suit and tie.
Obviously disappointed. That's a terrible Dirk impression, but like he's like, yeah, great day. I won the MVP. We lost in the first round to a 42-win Warriors team.
I mean, credit for at least showing up.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I'd just be like, I sit on my couch, and be like, you fucking mail it to me.
And for the next few seasons, the Mavs were always a good team, but never seemed to have any playoff success. Garnett, on the other hand, would be traded to Boston, forming that super team in 2008 with, of course, Pierce and Allen. Had the greatest single season turnaround in NBA history. KG wins his first.
Yeah,
and
they
only
won.
Defensive
They
Player of
won
the
like
Award.
16
Crazy that he doesn't
games,
have more than that.
and then went up to 54. I know they won 54 the year they won the championship. It was either 54 or 58. It was 54 or 58. See, now I got to look it up. Wow, I was really off. 66 games. Yeah, they won 66 games. I thought they were 58 and 24. If we look at the previous season, they were 24. That's where it is. Okay, that's the mix-up. They went 24. See, that's the mix-up, chat. We saw it. We saw it straight on. I said they won 16 games, and then they switched to 54 and 28. I had the numbers mixed up. So, hey, don't try and mess up my reputation. I still know ball, but when you got, hey, you know what? We not even gonna talk about it no more. As a matter of fact, we're just gonna.
Celtics beat the Lakers in 6 to win their first title in over 20 years. KG caps it off with the anything is possible.
Young Jason Tatum got an idea.
I just got an idea.
He saw that and he took some notes.
Why does
KG
Jason
was
Tatum
always
catch a
never
straight?
able to
Hold
be
on.
successful.
Pause it.
He
Chat.
got
Pause
injured in
it.
2009.
Pause it,
Honestly,
pause
if he
it,
doesn't
pause
get
it.
injured, they probably
Pause
go
it,
back.
pause it,
to
pause
back.
it.
Yeah.
Pause it. Why is Jason Tatum catching strays everywhere? You can't, and I promise you, you cannot scroll on sports media without finding a Jason Tatum stray. That's why I cheer for the Celtics every now and then. And I know that's crazy to say because I have a Kobe jersey right here. That's crazy to say. That is crazy to say. But I cheer for the guy that's getting picked on. Because Jason Tatum's really good. He's really good. And I have a whole playlist of videos I'm going to react to. And one of them is talking about Jason Tatum. So I'm actually going to do that after this. Actually going to do that right after this. But let's get back to it.
2010, they get back to the finals, but they lose to the Lakers in 7 games. And by 2011, the Heat had formed the Big Three down in South Beach. And as good as the Celtics were around this time, they weren't getting past that juggernaut from Florida.
And speaking of that Big Three Heat team, after beating the Celtics in round 2, beating the Bulls in the conference finals, surprisingly, they matched up with the Mavericks in the NBA finals. And 5 years after losing the Heat in 2006, Dirk gets his revenge in one of, if not the most impressive finals wins and runs by a player.
I think it is the most impressive finals run by a player because Dirk up to this point was known as like a playoff choker.
Absolutely.
And he basically completely erased that entire legacy with this finals performance. Like you ask people about Dirk nowadays and never bring up playoff choker. Not anymore. Not after what he did in 2011.
Without another all-star on the roster, like you had some guys a little bit past their prime and Jason Kidd and Sean Marion. Jason
How
Terry was
good would
phenomenal.
this team
Tyson
be?
Chandler, shout
Hold
out
on,
to him.
Chad.
They
Hold
had
on.
a very good team.
How
but to
good would
not
this
have a-
team be? How good would the Dallas Mavericks be if everyone was in their peak seasons? So if you had Jason Kidd, Jason Terry, Sean Marion, Dirk, and Tyson Chandler all in their peak. You guys let me know. And as a matter of fact, we're going to do a 2K sim. We're going to do a 2K sim. I like that idea. I definitely like that idea.
Single other all-star.
Crazy.
That basically wraps up the peaks for both stars. I mean, they made a couple all-stars in the years after, but Dallas kept swinging for the fences with free agents.
Oh, I
So they were
remember.
never able to really get a consistent.
All right, this is the last time I'm going to pause. But when they had Monte Ellis, that was my go-to team in 2K. I think that was 2K12 or 13 when they had Monte Ellis. Maybe even 14. But when they had Monte Ellis in 2K, Dirk and Monte pick and roll every play. Every play. Every play. It doesn't matter if you grab the Thunder, the Spurs, the Heat, the Bulls. As long as I had Monte Ellis and Dirk, I was hooping.
Cast around Dirk. Dallas actually never made it out of the first round after they won the title. And eventually they draft Luka, Dirk retires. KG, on the other hand, a couple more runs with Boston, had that one big playoff run in 2012 where they almost knocked off Miami, then gets traded to the Nets, quickly becomes washed, like almost overnight it felt like. And now, of course, we got the new NBA Twitter wash meme. It's KG with the Nets. So eventually goes back, retires in Minnesota.
hilarious. I'm
So
not gonna lie.
start talking
That
about
is
these
funny.
guys on the offensive side of the ball.
First, we'll start on the offensive side of the ball. Very different play styles. Kevin Garnett, more of your traditional power forward offensively, post guys up, back guys down, the close hook shot and everything, but he also did have a very solid post fade and he had a pretty deadly mid-range jump shot, especially like later in his career, he really relied upon that. But early in his career, a lot of pick and pops, rarely ever shot 3-pointers, really wasn't a good 3-point shooter. But the one thing I think he doesn't get enough credit for, underrated passer, leads the Timberwolves in assists in 03 and 05, kind of played like this point forward role after they basically didn't have a point guard. They lost Terrell Brandon and Chauncey Billups in 02. So overall for KG, I'd say like underrated offensive player, especially his peak in Minnesota was very good and very underrated passer.
Yeah, his peak was really good in Minnesota, but it was also pretty short. And
By the way,
it's really tough to see him as a
after this video
first.
is done, I'm going to give who I think the better player is. It's not going to be like a 40-minute breakdown like how I would do any other thing, but I'm going to give about 5 minutes to really grasp, in my opinion, who was the better player.
Offensively on a championship team. We'll get into the other side of the ball, but just purely offensively, like he was good. Wasn't amazing by any means. It is always a trip to go back and watch early 2000s ball where guys are constantly shooting mid-range jumpers and be like, bro, if you could just take like a couple steps back. And I don't buy the whole excuse like DeMar DeRozan has said this before. It's just like, I can't shoot threes. Like, yes, you can. If you can hit a long 2-pointer, you can hit a 3-pointer too. I know it wasn't the style at the time, but it's like that one Walter White meme where you're yelling, but the window's up, so can't hear. It's like, KG, step back, a foot or two, take a three, to make you so much more of a diverse offensive player. But I tend to agree, underrated, but not gonna blow you away by any lanes.
Dirk, on the other hand, during the 2000s, one of the best offensive players, just straight up. And in my opinion, the greatest big man shooter ever. I know people will say Towns, and maybe Towns is better at shooting threes, but if you throw Dirk in today's era, he's knocking down threes like crazy.
Well, Towns is better at shooting wide open, uncontested threes, maybe.
Deep threes.
Dirk is better at just shooting the ball. Like, we'll talk about it in a sec, but like his post game, like his post fade, the Dirk shot as it was coined back in the day, and also his 3-point shooting, like Dirk hit contested ass shots.
Well, he shot that to the moon.
He did.
Like, he shot that so high.
And there's something about that like arc on Dirk's shot where he just tosses it up there and it comes down straight through the hoop. Like there's something about it, like
I don't know why I
aesthetically
keep calling y'all
pleasing
chat,
about it, you know?
I'm gonna keep calling y'all chat. I have this is what I love about doing reaction videos, because I get YouTube video ideas off of the nuances in between other content that I watch. Like watching this like 30-second portion of talking about Dirk's jump shot. Now I want to talk about who's the greatest shooting big in NBA history, because I think Chris Stapps could be in that conversation. Dirk, Cat, Jokic, Joel Embiid can be in that conversation. Just regular 5 or 4 men who could shoot the ball. Yeah, I think we're gonna do that.
Yeah, but he still was, you know, your 2000s player. He made his money in the mid-range, just like his up fakes would get guys in the air. He could hit and ones in the mid-range. If you bought for the fake, he's blowing by you. Like, underrated first step to get to the hoop.
Underrated ball handler, too.
He was, absolutely. And of course, like you said, the Dirk shot, like, apparently he didn't do that early on in his career. Like, you can find some kind of clips of him doing it, but he developed that shot later in his career, and just, it's so deadly because he was so good at it. And how do you contest it when he's got his knee all the way up in the air?
Well, I mean, nowadays he might get dinged for offensive fouls here and there trying that, but genuinely, I think it's one of 2 unblockable shots in NBA history. Like, it's the Dirk shot and it's the Kareem skyhook. Because what are you gonna do? He's 7 feet tall. He's like leaning way back, and yeah, he's got his knee in your face. Like, unless you like go around him and try to get him from the back, which you're not gonna have enough time to do, you can't block the shot.
It's funny how nobody just stopped there, and we'll keep watching.
It's not physically possible.
Yeah, absolutely torched the Heat with that move. And we talked about KG's peak kind of being short. Dirk's peak offensively was a decade. Like, legit, 2002 to 2012, he was one of the best offensive players in the league, just straight up. So obviously, as you've probably figured out, Dirk's the better offensive player. KG underrated. You know, the gap isn't massive. It's not the Grand Canyon, but there is a gap there.
Okay, by the way, I do think there is a gap between KG, and there's a seismic gap, you know. But one thing I will say offensively, I think they missed 2 things about both of these players that I think was pretty significant. I think Kevin Garnett was a fantastic transition player with his ball handling, his speed, his athleticism, his finishing around the rim. All of those things can be really factored into how good of an offensive player you are. If you can get the ball off the rebound and go immediately, you don't have to wait for a guard to find themselves open and bring the ball up the floor. You make your team such a better transition team. So I do think if Kevin Garnett had the right pieces around him in that time, this Minnesota Timberwolves team would have been a fantastic offense. And as far as Dirk, I think Dirk is probably the first big I've seen before Jokic and before offense really like progressed that could come off pin downs and could use their off-ball play to be an extreme advantage, because Dirk moved extremely well off the ball, whether it was pin downs, pick and pops, cutting to the basket, repositioning himself in the post. Dirk did a lot of really good things. And if you get the ball off of a pin down and he's just going right to that elbow or right away from that elbow and he's leaning back with that fadeaway, it's really hard to guard, because one, you have to fight through screens, and now you have to fight through screens on top of trying to contest a shot that's already really hard to contest and really hard to block. That makes the offense really hard to deal with. So I do think those are 2 things that these guys missed, but so far, great video.
Gap on defense, though, this is the Grand Canyon.
It is.
This might be bigger than the Grand Canyon. We'll start with KG. I mean, flat out, one of the best defensive players in NBA history. I mean, we started watching basketball like in the late 2000s. He's one of, if not the best defensive player we've seen in that time. I think I still might take prime Dwight Howard over him, but it's close.
Yeah, I mean, KG was just so versatile.
Did I hear that correctly? Prime Dwight over Kevin Garnett. See, this is the thing. Kevin Garnett is a top 5 defender in NBA history for me. He's number 4. He's number 4 for me. He's number 4. He's the 4th greatest defensive player in NBA history for me. And we can talk about it. Bill Russell, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Ben Wallace, Draymond Green, and then the last 4, I would have to really sit down and think. But the thing is, I'm not even gonna take it. No. We're just gonna
to see him defensively in the modern NBA.
Oh, jeez.
Dude would be Evan Mobley on steroids. He could switch out into a point guard to guard. You know, that's not really a mismatch because his strides, his lateral quickness for his size was just absolutely insane. Like, there are better rim protectors, but the speed and agility he had, there's
to dive deeper into KG's defense, the speed and agility, like they just said, allowed him to stay in every play in transition, allowed him to recover amazingly. That's why he was best as a rim side help defender or a help side rim protector. A lot of things that Kevin Garnett did was playing in the gaps, playing defense in the transition, the speed that he possessed to keep him in the plays in transition. All those things, like, he's a top 5 defender, no doubt for me.
not many 7-footers that can match that.
Also worth pointing out,
No, I'm not.
maybe played with the highest motor in NBA history.
Yeah.
The most intensity. Like, you could tell every time KG's out there on defense, like those crazy eyes he'd get, like, you could tell he is giving everything he has.
Well, bro was dripping sweat about like 50 seconds into every game.
Yep.
Also, great defensive IQ. Only won one Defensive Player of the Year award in 2008.
Criminal.
I mean, I know he finished second a couple times to Mutombo, to Dwight, to Ben Wallace, 9 defensive first teams, 3 all defensive second teams, but dude deserves honestly like 3. I don't know what year, I'm not stealing from anyone, but the fact that he only has 1, like you said, criminal.
Dirk defensively, average at best, and that feels generous.
It is.
I mean, we were able to find a couple of articles from back in the 2010s suggesting like, ooh, when Dirk's off the floor, actually, the Mavericks defense is not as good, but I remember watching the guy play live. Dirk was a great player, but defense was never his strong suit. The best thing you could say about Dirk is that he was a big body.
Yeah, but 7 feet, like not a great rim protector. Talk about a mismatch on the perimeter. If he got switched onto a guard, it's probably barbecue chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, at best, we're giving him average. I think later in his career, he developed more on that side of the ball. Good rebounder, at least. So comparing a guy who's one of the best defensive players ever to a guy who's just average, like, obviously there's gonna be a massive gap there.
They crazy as hell for using Michael Strahan.
Final category we'll look at today is just the legacy, you know, the aura, the intangibles. First, let's look at each of their championships. We'll start with KG. Formed what I say is the first modern Big Three. It was known as the Big Three at the time. Like, a lot of people think of the Heatles as the first Big Three, but this Big Three came before them, and then the Heatles were kind of counter to them. You had Ray Allen, KG, and Pierce joined together in 08. Best single season turnaround in NBA history. They win the title that season. We've touched on this before in the 08 Celtics video. Not dominant in the playoffs though.
Not at all.
A 37-win Hawks team pushes you to 7?
Yeah, that's the worst one. Like, getting pushed to 7 by Braun, even a Braun with not much help on that Cleveland team, like that's fine. Getting pushed to 6 in the conference finals by the Pistons and Lakers in the finals, like, okay, that's fine. 37-win Hawks team pushes you to 7 in round 1. I get it's your first playoff series with everyone together, but like, not a good look. And like, as a whole, this team, they played only 2 less than the maximum amount of games they could play on their way to the title.
Yeah. I mean, they did get it done, though. Like, can't take it away from them. They beat Kobe.
I know
and
Ray
LeBron
Allen
in
left
one
eye
playoff
burning
run.
like a
Gotta give him
motherfucker
credit
in
for
that
that,
picture.
too. But one piece of hardware Dirk has that KG doesn't, Finals MVP. Pierce won Finals MVP, and it was pretty close between him, Garnett, and Allen, but Pierce averaged the most points. He guarded Kobe. He won the...
One thing I'll say, I do think Kevin Garnett was the best player on this team. So the Finals MVP doesn't really take anything away from Garnett, in my opinion. I think because Paul Pierce was the number one scoring option. He was the guy with the ball in late game scenarios. That doesn't really affect to me because hold on. Now I need to look. Because hold on. All right, so I don't know if you guys can see this, but the Boston Celtics were if I can zoom in, here we go. The Boston Celtics were the 9th best offense in the NBA with an offensive rating of 111.1, and they were only just a point and some change away from being the 12th offense in the NBA, while they had the best defensive rating by 3 points. So I would say KG led that defense more than Paul Pierce led that offense, and I think KG was still a solid offensive player to the point where you could say he was the best player on that team. I still think Kevin Garnett was the best player on the team. So I'm not going to say that the Finals MVP is really worth something to me. I think Dirk 100% earned his Finals MVP. So once again, I'm not giving Dirk's Finals MVP to boost his resume more than I'm tearing down KG's because of him not getting one. I look at how both of them performed in the playoffs, so damn, I just hit the hell out of my mic. But that's really the standard of it. That's really the standard of it. But anyway, let's just get back to the video.
You do got to wonder, though, if the voters were swayed Pierce's way by his theatrics in game one.
They might have. When he shit his pants.
Yeah. Well, no, when he hurt his knee.
Right.
Yeah. Dirk's finals run, though, I think it's the best in NBA history. We've seen some great runs, Kawhi in 2019, but this one, you take out a decent Blazers team in the first round. We're biased, but, a pretty solid 48-win Blazer team. Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, not bad. You sweep the defending champion Lakers in round 2, one of the most shocking sweeps in NBA history. You follow that up by taking out the KD, Russ, and Harden Thunder in the conference finals, and then you cap off your run with one of the biggest finals upsets in NBA history, probably the biggest one since the 2004 finals when the Pistons knocked off the Lakers. And in this whole playoff run, up to this point, Dirk kind of had a rep as a playoff choker, and he was spectacular this entire run.
Just an incredible run. Like you said, I haven't seen a better finals run watching the NBA. It was just magical. And the fact that he took down that big three, just absolutely incredible. He didn't have another all-star on the roster.
And he took down Kobe, and he took down KD. And the fact that the Mavericks even were able to mentally recover from that game 4 against the Blazers in the first round.
Yeah.
You have that 23-point third quarter lead, you have an 18-point fourth quarter lead, and you blow it. The fact that they didn't melt down from there and went on to win the championship, unbelievable.
Looking at their MVP seasons, though, this goes to KG, and it's not close. 24.2 points a night, almost 14 boards, 5 assists, 2.2 blocks, 1.5 steals a game. You lead the Wolves to the top seed out west, make it to the conference finals. The most successful season in Timberwolves history. Could have easily won unanimous MVP, but somehow this always happens. Jermaine O'Neal gets 2 votes, and then Peja gets 1.
There's always got to be one dumbass out there.
Gotta ruin it.
Dirk, on the other hand, pretty good stats, 24.6 points per game, 8.9 boards on 50, 40, 90 splits. Mavericks won 67 games, by far the best record in the league, but it all goes to waste when you lose to the We Believe Warriors in the first round. We talked about it earlier, but just the visual of him accepting the MVP award after his team has already been bounced from the playoffs is just, it's sad.
Yeah, like we said, it's just sad. It feels depressing. It just feels weird. Yeah, good season, but even then, KG's season, disregarding the playoff success, was way better. Final verdict, who you picking? Who's better, KG or Dirk? Dirk?
It's so tough because if like I was doing this in a vacuum and I said just pick the player that'll make your team better, I might be tempted to go with KG, but that 2011 finals run for Dirk is just too much to overlook. Like that's what Dirk is at his absolute peak, and I think Dirk at his absolute peak is better than KG at his absolute peak. Dirk offensively is better. Defensively, you know, he's a big body. He's not the best, but he's not the worst, and I feel like especially we didn't really talk about this, but in clutch moments, in moments where I need a bucket, there are a few guys that I would trust more than Dirk Nowitzki. He's a better shooter, he's a better scorer, he's better in clutch moments. It's close, but I would have to go with Dirk.
Oh, I forgot all about Beard Dirk. Oh, you
Yeah,
look rough.
KG's the better two-way player, but I gotta go Dirk as well. That one finals run alone,
You
basically.
can't look past it.
Yeah, like before then, I remember always saying KG's better. No, that...
Okay. I guess it's time to sit up. Because, take a step back real quick. Camera, focus for me real fast. Looks like I'm going to have to edit this out real fast. While I do think Dirk Nowitzki is a fantastic player, but I do still think Kevin Garnett is the best player. And when we just look at offense versus defense and defense and combine them two, I think Dirk was a fantastic offensive player. I still think Kevin Garnett was an above average offensive player, and I still think he was a very good offensive player. No, he was not good enough to be the core best player on an offensive player on a championship team, but he was still a fantastic offensive player. While Kevin Garnett reached heights that many people could not defensively, Dirk was still a liability defensively. So if you're talking about a guy who improves his team offensively and defensively versus somebody that just improves their team offensively, and then the gap isn't as far as it is for offense that it is for defense, sometimes you would lean towards them being the better player. And in this case, I would have Kevin Garnett being the better player than Dirk Nowitzki. I think Kevin Garnett did a lot of things offensively that would have made him a great number two offensively. That's not saying Kevin Garnett was bad enough for him to be the fourth or fifth option offensively. I think Kevin Garnett could have been the second best offensive player with the transition play, with the passing, with the finishing around the rim, with the screen setting, with the mid-range shooting. All of those type of things that Kevin Garnett did fantastic on offense made him an above average offensive player and a fantastic offensive player in my opinion. Now, I do think Dirk was a great offensive player, but the defense was still a liability to the point where Kevin Garnett could uplift defenses to the level that Dirk could not. So I would still say Kevin Garnett is the better player. Kevin Garnett is a really good offensive player, and he's one of the best defensive players the league has ever seen. I would lean Kevin Garnett being the second best option offensively and being the best player on my defense. So that's who I would go with. And with that being said, shout out to the guys at Synthetic Sports. That was a fantastic video. I do like you guys' older type of concept, kind of like retro concept to you guys' videos. So I think that was pretty cool as well. So if you guys like these type of content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.